shortly open, so let's see. Oh, nice. There you go. Looks like it's popped up. Good, good, good. So if anyone wants to watch on Twitch, then yeah, you know what? Fine, we'll ping everyone. Okay, perfect. How many people will leave the Discord? That's the kind of questions we'll need to ask ourselves. Okay, perfect. So it looks like the Twitch is good. Discord is good. So we'll get things started. All right. So what we'll do for everyone that's in here, I guess anyone that's listening on Twitch, things look a little weird. We have a replay of Whiteout versus Galaxy in the background, and we talk about the Town Hall questions. So if you want to join through your Discord, feel free to do so. Otherwise, if you're in Discord, feel free just to chill in the audience. We have the chat in the voice channel if you want to talk in the chat there. Or I guess if you talk in the Twitch chat as well, I'll kind of be watching both. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through all the Town Hall questions in the Town Hall Questions channel. And then we'll try to go through all those. And then we'll kind of save the last 30 minutes or so. We'll try to save it for any other questions that people want to ask in the VC. So if you want to save something that needs to be asked in the VC, you can save it until the end and we'll go through it then. So yeah. Without any further ado, I guess we'll get things going. Shout out Dr. Shadow with the resub. W Shadow. But yeah, all right, let's take a look at what we got here. So I'm gonna kind of lump 3 out of the first 4 questions together because they're kind of similar. So the first questions are: will we see a return of main servers for games being East? If we do community vote or poll to reevaluate whether we should use Central East servers, then how about West servers, little guy in Orchid? So yeah, those are good questions. There've been a good amount of people talking about the servers. However, they are going to remain on Central. We are not planning on changing them as default. This is so that way it's kind of in the middle of all regions. Central is in the middle between East and West, so we can include West players as well. But don't get it twisted. You guys can still play on East if both teams agree. I know Shadow was talking about it earlier, and he was saying that a good majority of his games actually were just played on East. So, and I feel like there wasn't really many issues in that regard. Central's being the default just makes sense because it's in the middle of everything. So no current plans to change that to East at the moment, but again, you can always agree to play on East, or technically any other region you can play on as well if both teams agree. So yeah, I think that pretty much answers that. Shadow, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that one.
No, you pretty much hit it on the spot. And also, kind of taking this from Amelie, this also kind of opens up an opportunity for us, something we do want to hit hard in the future is kind of more on the recruiting page. This opens us up to kind of recruiting more out for people who are out west. Hey, we can tell them that, hey, we play on Central servers, which is unlike most of the community based events. They all mostly play on the East, which makes it hard for those West players. So something that we can hit hard in the future as well.
Yeah, that is a good point. That's a good point that Mealy did bring up, even though he's not here. Shadow bring it up for him. Actually, he is here. He's just sitting there. Get up here. There we go. He found his way. Mealy, we're so proud of you. No, he doesn't want to talk to us. All right. Well, yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's a fair point as well. So. Yeah, but we are going to stick with Central for the time being. But again, you can always agree to play on a different server. So, yeah. Going to kind of the third question on here. I kind of lumped 3 out of the first 4. But going to the third question here, can we get an early look at what season or what next season is wanted to look like, regardless of player counts? So, yeah, ideally, what we'd love to see is 16 teams in all leagues again, at least 5 leagues with 16 teams, possibly get 8 in provisional if possible. That'd be the ideal scenario. We feel like 16 teams is kind of the best format that we get with the full play-in tournament and everything that revolves around that. So that's kind of the hope, is to try to get 16 teams in 5 leagues, and maybe get provisional up to 16 as well. We kind of try to aim for 16. It's kind of a nice number at the moment. Maybe very long term we might go 32 in each league, but 16 teams is kind of that sweet spot, I think. Keeps the leagues kind of clumped together. Everybody kind of knows each other, and yeah, the format just works out really nicely. So yeah, 16 teams. So that means, reminder, get your interest forms in. We're gonna be hunting people down. It's actually coming up really quick. So this offseason is gonna be very short. Interest forms close the 19th. It's already the 3rd. So we're running out of time. We got like just over 2 weeks. So make sure you fill your interest forms and remind your players to fill out your interest forms. And I'm not sure if this is a question on here later on, but if you are unsure if you filled out an interest form, you can go on to the public player sheet, and there's a tab on there that says season 13 interest players, and it'll tell you what your status is and if you submitted it. So if you see your name on there and you see that you have been accepted or that you've submitted it, that means you're good to go if you're accepted. If you're pending, that means that you're missing something. The mods will ping you in support. If there's nothing next to your name, it means the mods just haven't gotten to, the league ops team hasn't gotten to your interest form yet, but it is submitted if your name is on there. So go double check that and go fill them out for sure. So yeah, that's that one.
Rockerman, as a kind of a follow-up to that. So looking at the end of, because we had that influx of players after the draft and such. So if we are looking at, because I know you have it kind of in front of you, I feel like. So if we have the player count that we had at the end of season 12, what would that look like in compared to having the full ideal 16 team and the potential for 18 provisional?
Yeah, so
does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, so let me I do need to pull up the last season numbers real quick just to double check, but I know what you're referencing. So yeah, so last season it looks like we ended at 390 players, which was well over the count of 256 that we had for the bare minimum. We had 137 free agents at the end of the season, which is crazy. We had a huge influx at the end, so that was pretty crazy. If we had that same number, 390, we could almost certainly bring back 16 teams in all leagues and provisional if all those players did return. The minimum to do that is 352 players, and we had 390, so we had about 40, which gives us a good amount of free agents per each league. So if every single player came back from season 12, we could bring back provisional and bring back 16 teams in Titan and Novice. So again, it's a good point that, make sure you guys are recruiting and try to, get as many people as you can in the league, so that way we can fill up those leagues and bring them back, because we had a lot of cool teams that we didn't really get to keep around, unfortunately, the last couple seasons. So I think we're there. We have the players. We just got to bring them back and get it going. So
yeah, so with that in mind, guys, anyone that that was a free agent that may not be paying close attention to this being the off season, send them a message, shoot them something, say, hey, let them know you're interested for next season, because if you sign up, you give us a better chance of getting more teams, which gets you a better chance of playing.
Yeah, and one of the problems we did have, and the reason there's a lot of free agents, is that a large majority of them came in after we already released the format. If people come in after the format, there's not really much we can do about it. We kind of have to deal with what we get. We can only use what we have when we create the format. It's very difficult for us to change it in the middle of the season. It kind of messes up GMs, messes up leagues, messes up players, sets us back. So it's really important that everyone fills out their interest forms, and we get other people to fill out their interest forms, or PRFs as well. If you're recruiting new players, try to get them in there before the format release. not just before the draft. The draft kind of seems like the start of the season, but that format release is kind of really where things get going. So yeah, we got a couple months or a couple weeks to get to that point. So let's make sure we're all really hitting it hard and try to get there. So yeah, we'll keep things going. Sands asks, what is next for Nemesis Gaming League? Which is a very open-ended question. So maybe I'll let Mallow talk about first about what he's been working on and what he sees that could be next, and I can talk a little bit more about it.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I know you guys, when we had that 6-man's bot down for that period of time earlier in the season, that was one thing that I was working on, was getting us a 6-man spot, a custom 6-man spot, which would also replace not only a casual 6-man spot, but could also do it per league. And so we could have a little more automated towards that. I'm working on historical data when it comes to trying to get a lot of the stats and stuff that we do, a lot of the things that we do behind the scenes on the Google Sheets. I'm just trying to get it into a more centralized location, as well as adding more functionality where we can do, just like how, as an example, how Rockerman has streamlined the interest form. I'm looking to streamline the PRF to where you can do it via the website, or you can do it via a / command in Discord. So we're going to be able to do that both ways, and then there will be a whole process when it comes to that. But there's a lot of cool and exciting things when it comes to the back end and the web and dev side, where I have to figure out what exactly we'll be able to open up, but it will allow us to, for some of you guys that do like to code like Sans, it will allow you to write your own bots for your orgs if you want to. And so there's a lot of exciting things coming down the pipeline regarding that. It's still very early in the stages, though.
Sweet. Thank you, Mallow. And then, yeah, to kind of continue to touch on Sans' question about what's kind of coming next. So last season, if you guys didn't know, was the first season we did have a prize pool for Titan, but we kind of more crowdfunded the prize pool. Kind of our first season in a while that we crowdfunded the prize pool. And we were really able to hit hard on our media, so especially our commentators and streamers, by paying them for their work on the streams. It really kind of allowed us to make sure we got every single match streamed and did what we wanted to do, kind of got back to where we needed to be. So then kind of looking forward on that front, we're hoping to continue that into next season and try to continue to expand our media so that way we can get some sponsors. Our hope is to, by really hitting our media hard and working hard with our commentators and streamers, then in turn in the future we can really look for sponsors who can see our media, because that's what they're going to look like, or look for sponsors are. They're not really going to look in a Discord to see how active it's been for a couple years. They're going to look at medias, especially social media and Twitch, to see kind of what it's all about. So we really want to hit that hard going into next season. Really try to hit those socials. We do need some people that are committed to helping out. I know we did kind of pretty decent on the YouTube side of things, bringing that back, but we really want to hit on the media side, really grow the media, and that allow us to get sponsors who can then in turn fund the prize pool. We can do advertisements, in between the matches. We can do advertisements at the bottom of the screen on the ticker. We can do reads in between. So there's a lot of opportunities. We just need to make sure we're consistent and we can be able to find those sponsors and consistently support those sponsors, because we don't want to let the sponsors down by saying, hey, yeah, we're gonna do this many streams, and then we don't end up doing the amount of streams that we said we were gonna do. So we just want to make sure we're really consistent on that front first. But that's kind of a big thing, I would say, that's coming up next for Nemesis, and also season 13. That's coming up next.
And to kind of go add on with that, because to what we could do also, and I don't know if I might be speaking out of turn here or anything, but one thing that would be very good to have here is someone who is a is going to be a person who will be able to do tournaments and events every week. Like we can come up with a day during the week or during every other week or something that we could do a tournament events that we can try and stream. Keep that activity up on Twitch, which will go throughout social media and such. So if you are someone that loves to do tournaments and events, feel free to apply for that because that definitely will not only help get some fun in for the free agents that potentially will be on the sideline, but also uh, will help Nemesis grow as well because that type of content is also what sponsors look for.
Yeah. So sweet. All right. Is Titan League going to stay at 8 teams for season 13? Maybe expand to 10. We'll see. Again, kind of like we talked about, kind of like Lucia's question earlier. Titan League may stay at 8 teams. I think if anything, there's kind of just based on how the schedules work, it'll be either 8, 12, or 16 if we're unable to get the full 16 teams. But ideally, we'd have 16 in all leagues. That's kind of the hope and the goal there for us. But we'll kind of see what kind of numbers we get and where the players turn out because there's not really much we can say officially or even have an idea of until we get all the interest forms in. Like even now, we can't really even say what it's gonna look like until we have a lot more responses. I mean, we got a good bit. I think we're triple digits already. So we're almost a third of the way there through the players, and we know people are people are lazy and don't want to fill it out. So yeah. Let's see.
Get your if you are Titan or if you know Titan players, even more specific if you know 1900 plus. I'm not saying it has to be that, but I did notice when we have this tightly clustered Titan League like we've had, super competitive, makes it super fun. Get those types of players, 18, 1900 plus, and so that way we can confine it. And then the more that we do sign up, make sure that they stay in, not just sign up, because if you leave, we think you're not going to play. And that goes back into the numbers, which, could knock it back down to, 12 or, currently 8 teams. So do keep that in mind as well. Just like Ruckerman has attested to before, just recruit, make sure they stay. Yeah.
All right. Continue on. Will there be a rematch league added to Nemesis? Probably not at the moment. We've talked about other leagues in the past or other games for the league in the past. We really want to focus on our league and the game that we have in front of us. There's a lot of room for improvement, especially on our media teams going into next season. So we're really focused on that before we try to get into other games. So that's kind of where we're at on that at the moment. But maybe long term, if things go well, other games or something that we can add in the future. Next one says a Nemesis mini season ran by someone in the tournament events team during the off season. I know we talked about this yesterday. Shadow, do you want to try to take this one?
Yeah, so that one's going to be a little bit difficult for us to kind of do. The off season is where at least us as managers like to go ahead and prepare for the upcoming season. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes there, as well as it kind of gives our staff a much needed break. We have a lot of people that do a lot of work during the season, and we do want to offer that time as a break. So if there were to be something like that, it probably wouldn't have any of the structure that we provide here at Nemesis, which would make that a little difficult.
Yeah, I'll agree with that as well. And yeah, it is good to get a break at the start, but I will say also too, there is a lot of stuff that goes on after kind of the initial break to really get into the off season that the staff teams do, especially management, who kind of provide, again, like Shadow said, the structure. So it'd be kind of difficult to do something like that or have something like that be consistent. But it is a good idea, and maybe if there were a longer break, it could be something we could try to do in the future. But for now, probably no on that one. Going on to the next one, so can we get single league tournaments so the Titan players can't solo carry? I know Mel kind of touched on a little bit, but yeah, it would be nice to have some more tournaments. We do need a good bit of, what do you call it, interest in these tournaments for us to make them happen, for the tournament team to make them happen. It'd be nice to have a couple more, but we do need the community to sign up. I think it kind of goes hand in hand with community signing up, and then also kind of getting these events out, well ahead of time. So kind of planning them up, giving, more than just like a day notice, or just one ping about the event, but try to get, a week notice or maybe a little more for these events so that people can plan around them. I think that would be a good idea, for sure. But yeah, it would be nice to get individual league tournaments. We've done that in the past before, so that would be nice to do again eventually. Alright, so suggestion with the match admin capabilities, we should do a pre-game warm-up where we hit the ball and to test jitter and latency issues. Ping doesn't tell you everything, then research the match thoughts. So yeah, this could be definitely something that we could try to implement for stream games going forward. Obviously in your own matches, you guys can do that if you please. If both teams agree to kind of go through it. You could already kind of do that as it was, just set the lobby to 1 goal and then just score once everybody was good. But yeah, with match admin, that might be something we'll add for the stream. I know we kind of allow people to test the ping as is, but it's definitely something that we can consider, and to make sure everybody looks good. We always try to make sure that for the streams that the servers are good for both teams before starting. So that's definitely something we can consider and try to make it a little more or a little better for people to test it out and make sure everything's good. I'll also
and then one other thing, when it does come to suggestions, I know you guys want to like throw out suggestions during these town hall questions like that, and I know we got a couple others down the line, but you can always do the suggestion channel for that. We definitely do answer those or talk about those. We just kind of do the answering as far as the exception or deny in batches. So it's something we definitely do talk about. So don't be afraid to throw that in the suggestion channel and not wait for a town hall or anything.
Yeah, that is a great point. Like Mel said, we do read all the suggestions as soon as they come up, but it doesn't necessarily get a public answer until we go through multiple of them at the same time usually. So yeah. All right, with that being said, will next season also have a community-funded prize pool? Do you think the smaller prize pools will negatively impact player counts? So this is a good question. Next season is probably going to have the community-funded prize pool again, like we did last season, where we only had $100 for Titan, and then the rest was community-funded. We didn't really see a noticeable difference in between the player counts from this season compared to previous seasons, so it actually ended up working out pretty well. So I think season 11 we ended up with 390 in season 12. Season 11 ended with 328, and then if you compare it to a previous summer season, which would be season 10, it's pretty similar there. It was 400 in season 10, 390 in season 12, so I think pretty comparable in terms of numbers compared to previous seasons and even a previous summer season. So I don't think it'll necessarily impact player counts directly at the moment. And like we said, hopefully in the future we can bring back those prize pools funded by the league or actually by our sponsors more so that way we can have something to pull players in. I think that might be the only thing. It might be harder to pull players in that are looking for because a lot of times you see, oh, this league has a big money prize. It can kind of pull new players in to check it out a little bit more comparatively. So it might hurt short term, but I think we're using our funding in a much better way at this time by making sure that we have consistent streams paying the commentators and streamers who volunteer their time to help out. So I think it's just used in a much better way at the moment. I think long term it'll definitely help us out.
I think the presentation too, with that, allows us to be a little more professional when it comes to streaming, which is what we need for the sponsorship. Which just like Rockerman said, long term is what we're going for here. So just getting everything in a more long-term format like that, thinking about things long-term, will bring in other things, other opportunities that will allow those holes to get filled in.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, like I said, hopefully it's something that we can bring back a more, with sponsor funding. That's something we really are hoping to do. But to get to that point and really get those sponsors, we have to have not only consistent streams, but consistent media as well. We need to, especially socials, I would say that's going to be the most important to get us kind of the sponsors that we're looking for. So again, we could definitely use help on that front if you guys are interested. Any media front, really. I always say that media is the most important team that we have here in Nemesis, because it's how we connect to the community and to other people. So if you guys are interested, please feel free to help out. We could always use the help. So all right, next up we have an essay from Critter. So I'm gonna go through it here. So basically he's asking thoughts on furthering the re-signing decision rules. So there's a couple different ideas. We'll kind of go through each one in a row here. So it says re-signing tiers introduce 1, 2, or 3 season contracts. A lengthy re-sign a player, how many re-signing spots are taken. 1 season to 1 spot, 2 season to 2 spots, etc. And then I'm kind of jumping down a little bit here on this one. I was going to go through each one, but this one kind of fits with his contract idea. Down bottom there it says RFAs, after a player contract ends, allow the current org to match a draft pick used to pick the player to retain them. So the one thing about contracts, it's something we've talked about in the past, but we've never went through with it, because it does kind of complicate things a little bit with contracts. Right now I feel like we've got enough complications as it is, with the league operations team trying to do everything that we need to do. The PRFs as it is, we gotta hit on those first before we kind of try to expand into contracts. It is an interesting idea though, to kind of make it more like a professional sports league, but it does add a lot of work on top of it. Tracking the contracts, how do we publicly display the contracts, how many contracts should we allow people to have. Obviously talk about the re-signing spots, and then it just complicates things in a way that's not really needed at the moment, in terms of contracts at least. But it is an interesting idea because it does make it more like a professional sports league. But at the moment, I guess if you want to think of it this way, when you get signed or added, you're on a 1 season contract through the rest of the season. Is kind of how I would see it. In that way, we kind of have them in a way for 1 season contracts. But it is an interesting idea, I would say. But I think the amount of work for what it's worth is probably not there at the moment, but it could be in the future for sure. And then going on to a couple of these other ones, I guess we kind of talked about the spots here. Let orgs trade respawning spots for draft picks. If I have a spot I'm not going to use, I can trade that spot for an equal trade in picks. That is interesting as well, but again, it's probably not necessary. I think it adds more complications to things there for draft picks. But it is interesting. That might be something we could do. It's a little more, I think it's a little bit more kind of on the line than maybe the other points. But not sure. We'll have to talk about that one a little bit more. I'm not sure if that one would go into effect. Could complicate things a little bit, but it's not a bad idea. Player at the top of their league or have a threshold is set. They cost more spots to resign. Some resign someone with MVP. They cost 2 signing spots. Yeah, for re-signings, we'll talk about those ones a little bit more. That's also an interesting idea about if we're going to make any adjustments to re-signs. We did ask for your guys' feedback in the feedback form about the limited amount of re-signs. So only 6 for this season per org. So we did ask for your guys' feedback on that one. So if you haven't filled out the feedback form, please feel free to do so. We really do look at those feedback forms and take your feedback into account and try to we use that. I mean, that's one of the biggest ways we use to try to improve Nemesis. So if you guys haven't filled that out, that's also a talking point on there. But we're taking those into consideration, and we'll take these suggestions as well. As well as the next one, if a player stays with the same org for 3+ seasons, they become loyal and cost less to resign. Again, we'll talk about the resigns as well. And then Shadow, I'll let you take the last 2 bullet points because I've been talking talking for a while. If you want to read them off and answer the last 2 if you can.
Yeah, we're talking. Oh, we're still on critters, correct?
Yeah, critters, the last 2 bullet points.
Yep. All right. So the second to last one is do a night before draft night to host a resign show. All players resigning to an org will be revealed. Could even have the GM of each org come on stream to announce which players will be retained. So yeah, we actually talked about this a little bit, and we actually really like that idea. It's definitely something that we could see ourselves doing in the not so distant future. It's something that we have to get some specifics down, have to get the streamer as well as casters to come on, and then also see if we can get X number of GMs to come on as well. So there's a lot of logistics that have to go into it, but it is something that we do like a lot and something that we may be able to do in the near future. And then rebuild mode. If an org finishes last across all tiers, they can enter a quote rebuild mode, which means they would get 1 extra resign slot. We don't necessarily like this one per se because it does, in a sense, encourage sandbagging. And we don't want teams to forfeit. We don't want teams to intentionally finish last. And by nature, that rule might encourage that. For even though it might not be said, it can encourage that kind of stuff. And we don't want to have that here. Also, it kind of gives a team sort of an unfair advantage over another one going into a future season. So that may be not something that we go ahead and do. Also, it's also very hard to see. I don't think it's ever happened that one org has ever had all of their teams finish last as well.
Yeah, then to go on that, just to kind of talk about the last part of that, getting 1 extra resign slot. I guess if you can trade them away for draft picks, it's worth it. But honestly, if all your teams finish last in every league, I don't think you're going to be re-signing many people. No offense.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I don't think that would really work out as well. I mean, you could trade the resign slot away if, assuming your idea was implemented. So maybe that's what you're going for. But I don't think that would quite work out. So, but yeah, they are interesting ideas, though. I will say that for sure. Keeping things interesting. So, right now I'm gonna close off the town hall questions chat so we can get through the rest of these ones in the voice chat, and then after we get through the last questions on here, then we'll open it up for people if they want to raise their hand and talk in the VC, or if we can just open up for more questions at the end there. So, all right. So heading on, Buntus says to go along with this, you could also do draft compensation for losing a high tier player back to the draft, similar to how the MLB does it, or if a player who's within the top 5 player rating or so can be adjusted, and you offer to re-sign them, but they like to go to the draft, you are awarded a pick at the end of the 2nd round. And then I think Jax is kind of similar along the same lines. Has there been talks of compensation of some sort for GMs if a drafted player leaves the team or the league in an ineligible manner? So yeah, we did discuss this, and we're kind of trying to figure out more about the specifics about what that might entail. I think to kind of talk about Ventus's thing, where if you offer to re-sign them and they go back to the draft, I don't think we do compensation picks for that one. Compensatory, I think is the word I was looking for. We wouldn't do those type of picks for people that if you offer to re-sign them and they go to the draft. We probably wouldn't do that. But we did talk and discuss about players that maybe leave the league right before the draft, or shortly after the season started, that you spent a high pick on. We have discussed that before. Not sure exactly what that might entail. We're still kind of in the discussion talks about that. But one thing I will say, to kind of go slightly on the against side of that, is that as a GM, you should be talking to your players and trying to, you know, make sure you want to draft them. You know, we do our best, you know, that we can, you know, behind the scenes as the league operations to make sure that everyone that's in the league is willing to play, but we can only do so much. It's partially on the GMs as well to check out who you're trying to draft and make sure that, hey, this player is going to play for the upcoming season. You know, it's something that the GM should do as well. So it's something to consider. But we will talk about that. We will discuss a little bit more if things are out of the GM's control, where a player leaves like that, and we could possibly add some compensation. But yeah, that'll be something we'll discuss a little bit more in depth, and we'll let you guys know if there's any changes in that regard. Are there any new things or talking points for this upcoming season? I don't know if we kind of already answered this one, I think. I don't know if Mallow or Shadow have anything to say about this one.
No, I mean, we just, you know, the things we're looking to do is trying to make things easier for you as a player, you know, whether you're returning or you are just signing up for the league or re-signing up for the league if you took a break. Just try to figure out ways to streamline it to make it easier. That's definitely one of the things we're looking at doing, and we've already implemented some of that, as Rockerman has alluded to, for the interest forms. So that's something for sure we're looking at. I know on that end there's some I think there's probably some other points that I may not be aware of, or I can't think of offhand, I should say. But yeah, on the optimization side, that's kind of what we have so far. On the dev side, I should say.
Yeah. I think we did kind of talk about this one a little bit earlier, so if you missed it, it was Sam's question. We are streaming this, so there will be a VOD available to watch back if you missed the beginning part of it, but yeah, I think the big thing is, especially with the shorter off season here, make sure you guys are recruiting people. Make sure they're filling out the interest form if they haven't already. It is on the public player sheet again to see if you filled out the interest form and what your status is. So make sure that you guys go check that out. Make sure you go tell your friends to join, and because we've only got a couple more weeks until the interest form closes. So we want to make sure we get everyone in as quickly as we can. We'll be sending messages out. The league ops team will, but I think that's kind of the big talking point, at least right now in the off season. Get recruiting, and let's see if we can bring back 16 teams in all leagues. That'd be hype. So for prize pool, maybe hit Parade Shadow Legends. I racked up over 1K. Some community players reaching level 40. That's interesting. Yeah, I know we've been working on some sponsors. I don't think Boozy is here at the moment to talk about that. But we have reached out to a couple and tried to set some things up. But again, we want to make sure we're a little more consistent in our media before we go that way. Obviously, there are some sponsors that'll just kind of take anyone. But we want to have some solid sponsors that we can get behind, and we can really kind of publicly push to help us out. So we want to make sure we get our medias in the right spot first. Again, not to sound like a broken record, but we want to get in that spot first. It's really important that we do that before we kind of dive in and just start getting sponsors. But that is a fair shout for sure.
Corsair, Logitech, I'm looking at you.
Right? Hit us up. But yeah, so next one on the list, will commentators streamers be paid going forward, or is season 12 a one-off? We are planning to bring it back for season 13 to kind of keep that going. That's kind of the idea at the moment. I know kind of touched on the question a little earlier with Squirrel's question about the prize pools, but that's kind of the hope, to continue to pay the commentators and streamers that sign up for the spots. So that's kind of the hope going forward, to kind of keep the media consistent, use the money that normally would went to the prize pools for the commentators and streamers. That way we continue to have good media, and can prepare for sponsors who can then fill the prize pools back in the long term. So short term, we plan to kind of fund the commentators and streamers, and then the long term, we hope that sponsors can fund the prize pools in the future, or other events like that. All right. if and when enough players return and we do get 16 teams per league, how the picks work, and to add on that, say like all 8 teams that were there to begin with from the previous season had the picks 1 through 8 already owned. We quickly double the numbers since the teams doubled, and the teams now be league given the draft lottery distance 9 left to our picks 9 through 16. So kind of how we've done in the past, where if we do expansion teams, they kind of fill in that top spot of the draft as like a quote unquote lottery pick. So if we do expand back to 16, there'll be a lot of lottery picks for those teams, but that should be how it'll go. They'll essentially be a lottery team, and then we would do the draft lottery to determine the order, and then kind of go from there. So yeah, it'd be a bit of a bigger lottery if we do expand that way, but that's kind of how it would work. We'd add the teams, and there'll be more details if we do expand back about that, so the GMs kind of know what they're looking at and what they're going to be dealing with. But especially for the empty teams, we kind of want to give them a decently fair shot at getting a good draft pick. So they'll essentially be lottery teams in a way. Alright, ever thought of instead of shrinking novice and Titan League to 8 teams to remove them completely and increase the amount of teams in rival Chelsea prospect, have more teams to play against and increase the competition for these leagues instead of having less teams and less competition? Having more teams, it opens more doors for scrims for each league instead of having leagues with barely any scrims. So that is something we've talked about a lot of different formats before. We haven't really went to the idea of expanding the individual leagues just because we feel like 16 is a really good format. It allows you with the play-in tournament, basically you get 10 teams that make the postseason, and the play-in tournament allows teams to keep really focused until the very end of the season, whereas before with only an 8-team playoff, teams like 16, like maybe like 13 through 16, or even like 12 through 16, they don't really think they have a chance once you kind of get in like the last couple weeks. And a lot of times we'd see a lot of teams just give up and forfeit and just pack it in. But with 16 teams in the play-in tournament, when you get the postseason as a 10 seed, it kind of keeps every team engaged until the very end of the season. And I think with expanding teams like that past 16, if we didn't go really big and go like 32, it'd probably end up being a slightly negative thing. I think there'd be more teams, but I think there might end up being less competition in a way, because I think there'd be a lot of teams that would just give up at the end of the season, like, oh, okay, if we expand to 24 or something, it's gonna be a lot harder to maybe make the playoffs for the upcoming season. But it is something that we consider, and obviously dependent on all our numbers, it is something that we could possibly do. But I think we found a good kind of spot with the 16 teams right now, and how it works out. So I think we're probably to stay on that front for the foreseeable future.
If I can
just
add
keep
on to that
recruiting
real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so also one of the cool things about having more leagues is that the MMR ranges from top to bottom of that league is closer in number. So if we were, like, for example, right now to drop the Titan and Novice and just have a rival, challenger, and prospect, each league will have such a wider range of MMRs that you're going to have some teams that are just simply dominant and some teams that are not. So it's awesome to have some more leagues, even if a couple are 8 compared to the 16. Obviously, we want every league to have 16, but it's nice to have those 8 leagues just so that way the MMR parity is a bit closer.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. Yeah, we do want to keep it close, and it'd be nice. I know, especially like Challenger got really close. I think this Challenger season was the closest the MMRs have ever gotten for the past season. So that was interesting. I think Prospect was, I can't remember, Prospect was decently close, but things kind of crunched down a little bit, or maybe it was a couple seasons ago that happened. But it did make things a little closer, and it kind of puts similar players up against similar players. So that's kind of why we like the having more leagues and keeping things closer. So we'll definitely be trying to stick with 16, but it is something to consider though, expanding if we have the people for it. Thoughts on partnerships with other big leagues? Yeah, we definitely are open to partnerships depending on the league and the offers. Obviously we want a usually similar stature if we're going to do any partnerships, or try to at least do similar stature, or at least close. And yeah, it really depends. We've considered some partnerships with other big leagues, but usually we like to see consistency within those leagues if we're gonna do partnerships or anything along those lines. But it is something that we've considered, and with the right offers, we're definitely open to them. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers all the questions in there. I'm gonna open up the questions chat again, and also we'll open it up now for anyone who has questions that they feel like are better explained in the stage channel. You can feel free to raise your hand. We'll invite you up to the stage. Otherwise, if you want, you just can send back your questions in the town hall questions chat. If you don't want to raise your hand to talk and you thought of another question you want to add, you can feel free to throw them in there. We got about 10 minutes or so. We started a little bit late, so we'll give it a little extra time if we have enough questions. But yeah, feel free to throw them in there or raise your hand. We'll see what else we got. And if we don't have anything, we can just we can also end it off early. So that's cool. That's cool by me. But
Yes, no problem there. We'll say though, we can expand the leagues if we can keep the players, right? So, you guys keep recruiting. We can increase those numbers for each league, including Titan and Novice, and even Provisional, if you guys, recruit and keep those numbers coming in. When it comes to partnerships, though, like Rockerman said, it has to be mutually beneficial, or at least we got to make sure that both sides get something out of it, right? So that's one of the reasons why we've definitely been hit up for partnerships, but at the same time, things just didn't make sense. So that's one thing we have to consider when it comes to that, because there are definitely some leagues that I think could benefit from us as well as them, but it also has to make sense.
that's fair. Yeah. I don't see anyone's hand raised, and I'm not really seeing any more questions or anyone typing in the town hall questions chat. So yeah, I think we'll end it off here. I think we had a lot of great questions though, so I appreciate everyone bringing their input.
Got a hand raised.
Oh, we do got a hand raise. Those crates. Bring those crates. All right, hold that thought. Bring the crates up on the stage.
Hello.
Hey,
Can
Flex.
you hear me?
Yep.
Oh gosh, wait one. Oh, what am I? Okay, I don't know if I can't hear you back, so I'm just gonna say my question and hopefully you hear me. If we were to go to like 32 teams in any of the leagues, would that mean we'd have to get like a bunch of new GMs, even if it was only a few leagues that went up to 32 teams, or would you have like some GMs doing multiple organizations?
Yeah, that's a good question. He may be able to hear me. I'll move him back. Maybe if I move him back to the audience, he'll be able to hear us now. Hopefully you can hear us back in the audience. But yeah, we did get the question. So yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, I think ideally we'd want to have 32 different GMs if that was the case. If we did expand to 32, that would kind of be the ideal scenario. But I don't know. I mean, I would assume 32 GMs if we expanded to 32 teams. I think if we didn't have enough, maybe there were some GMs that could do multiple orgs, if it's possible. But it is a lot of work as it is as a GM, so it might be tough to do. So I think ideally we would want to have 32 different GMs. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I would say from an integrity standpoint, you wouldn't want more than one a GM doing more than one team in a league. So we would definitely need to have unique GMs for the most part, I would think. So that would be a big consideration in how many teams we actually do when it comes to expanding certain leagues.
Yeah, that's a good question though. Anyone else have anything before we wrap it up?
Going.
And go. All right. Well, we'll end it off here. I appreciate everyone for the questions. Again, if you haven't filled out the interest form or the feedback forms, make sure to do that as well. But yeah, we'll have more information coming up soon. I think the big thing of now is just to recruit. So make sure you guys are recruiting players and filling out the interest forms if you haven't already going forward. So yeah, with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will be talking soon. Next event is planned to be the awards show, it looks like. So a lot more information on that. But interest forms are closing soon, so make sure if you're a returning player from last season, you fill it out. If you're a new player that didn't play last season, or a returning player that didn't play last season, you need to fill out a PRF. So make sure to do that. But yeah, that is gonna wrap it up. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one.